The Golden Palace aired for one season 34 years ago, and what lingers is less nostalgia than a particular kind of incompleteness. Of the six principal cast members, only two remain alive in 2026, Don Cheadle, now 61, and Cheech Marin, 79. Betty White has been gone since 2021. Rue McClanahan died in 2010, and Estelle Getty in 2008. Bea Arthur, who refused to join the show, died in 2009. This was the series that came into being only because one of the Golden Girls' four anchors said no. We will return to her decision, and to something that happened on December 31st, 2021, that no one saw coming, not in its specific timing or its cosmic precision. The Golden Palace was born in 1992 because the Golden Girls had become, by its seventh season, something that could not be sustained as originally constituted. NBC's hit comedy had run for 7 years. Bea Arthur, who played Dorothy Zbornak, the sarcastic, grounded backbone of the show, had decided she was finished. She did not want to continue. She did not want to film more episodes. She wanted to leave while the show still had credibility, while people still wanted more, while she could walk away on her own terms. This was a choice that would reshape the entire franchise and inadvertently create a kind of historical test. Could these three women carry a show without her? The network thought they could. The producers believed they could. And so Dorothy Zbornak married a man named Herb Edna and moved to Holbrook, Ohio, and Rue McClanahan, Betty White, and Estelle Getty moved to a luxury hotel in Miami and began again. Number 1. We have Don Cheadle as Roland Wilson. Roland was the hotel manager, the professional anchor, the stable presence who would serve as the primary point of contact between the four women and the external world of rules, propriety, and business reality. Cheadle was 27 years old when The Golden Palace began filming in 1992. He had small roles behind him, bit parts in films and television, but nothing that had yet clarified who he would become. The show was not a vehicle built around him. He was hired as a supporting player, a character meant to provide a counterweight to the older women's comedy. He was meant to be the person who said ma'am and checked his watch and tried to maintain the hotel's reputation while chaos erupted around him. For one season, he showed up, delivered his lines, and participated in a show that would be canceled almost immediately. Then he left. What happened next was not inevitable, though it seems inevitable now. Cheadle took roles in films. He worked steadily, then noticeably. Then he became essential. Hotel Rwanda in 2004 marked a turning point. A performance of such moral clarity and emotional precision that it announced his arrival as a major talent. By the time Marvel called him to play James Rhodes, he was already among the most respected actors working. He has been nominated for an Academy Award. He has worked with the Coen brothers and Denis Villeneuve, and Barry Jenkins. He has built a life of consequence in cinema, television, and activism focused on Darfur and global humanitarian crises. He married Bridget Coulter in 2020 after a long relationship. They have 2 daughters. The irony is substantial. Cheadle was the youngest person on the Golden Palace set by a decade or more, hired as a supporting player in a show that would last 1 season, and he is now the one still working, still relevant, still building his career forward. He outlasted the show. He outlasted the universe it created. When people search for information about the Golden Palace, Don Cheadle's name appears now in connection with films he made after the show had already been canceled. Hotel Rwanda, Crash, the Oceans franchise, the Marvel Cinematic Universe as War Machine. The Golden Palace is, for him, a footnote. But it was not a footnote then. It was a job. And he did the job. The simple truth is that most work does not define the person who does it. Most work is simply what you do while you figure out who you will become. Number 2, we have Cheech Marin as Chuy Castillo. Chuy was the chef, the man who fed them, who knew their tastes, who existed slightly outside the formal hierarchy of the hotel, but absolutely essential to its emotional temperature. Cheech Marin was born in Los Angeles on July 13, 1946. He was 46 years old when The Golden Palace aired. By then, his identity was already established and would never substantially change. He was Cheech Marin. He had created that identity with Tommy Chong in the 1970s and early 1980s, and that identity had defined him in the public imagination. The Golden Palace was an attempt to reinvent himself as a solo actor, a dramatic player, someone who could anchor a character in a dramatic role. He was trying to evolve. The show lasted one season. He continued trying. After Golden Palace, Marin worked steadily in television and film. Nash Bridges with Don Johnson gave him nearly 6 years on network television. Voice work in the Cars franchise provided ongoing income and association with a successful Pixar property. Jane the Virgin cast him in a recurring role. He worked. He remained visible. He did not disappear, but he also did not become Don Cheadle. He did not ascend to the level of major film roles and awards consideration. What he did do, however, was something else entirely. Cheech Marin became a serious collector and advocate for Chicano art. He built a world-class collection over decades. In 2022, at 76 years old, he opened the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture in Riverside, California. This is not a footnote to his career. This is a major cultural institution in a state with a profound Chicano heritage. He married Natasha Rubin in 2009 and has remained married. He built something that lasts. The continuation is that life makes space for second acts that have nothing to do with the Hollywood hierarchy. That matter more, perhaps, because they are willed into being rather than granted by network executives. Number 3, we have Estelle Getty as Sophia Petrillo. Sophia was the mother, technically Dorothy's mother, though in the larger emotional landscape of the show, she served as a kind of collective grandmother figure, the sharp-tongued keeper of basic truths. Estelle Getty was born on July 25, 1923. This means she was 69 years old when The Golden Palace aired. She died on July 22, 2008, just 3 days before her 85th birthday. The official cause was Lewy body dementia, a form of progressive neurological disease that affects cognition, movement, and behavior. She had been diagnosed in the early 2000s and had withdrawn from public life as the disease progressed. But there is something worth pausing on before we move forward. Estelle Getty was actually younger than Betty White. Bea Arthur was born in 1922, the same year as Betty White. Estelle Getty was born in 1923. And yet Getty played their mother. She had the eternal grandmother face, the weathered voice, the physical presence that read as elder. The show's premise, 4 single women living together in Miami, only worked because one of them was positioned as the matriarch, the elder who could dispense wisdom and annoyance in equal measure. The show cast Getty as Sophia because she could embody that role, not because it was accurate to real chronology. She was 69, playing 70-something, playing the mother to women who were actually older or the same age. Getty had been a working actress for decades before The Golden Girls. She had a career, but The Golden Girls made her famous. And that fame came late, after decades of smaller roles, television appearances, and film work that did not quite ascend into stardom. She was 63 when The Golden Girls premiered in 1985. For the first time in her life, she had not just work, but prominence. For 7 seasons of The Golden Girls and 1 season of The Golden Palace, she was a recognizable face. Then, The Golden Palace was canceled. Then, The Golden Girls became something from the past. Then the disease came. Here is something almost never discussed. Estelle Getty suffered from severe stage fright her entire career. Despite decades of work in television and theater, she was nervous, anxious about her performances, afraid of live audiences. She was a working actress in spite of this anxiety, not because she had conquered it. Stage fright and dementia are 2 different afflictions, but they both place you outside ordinary social life in their own ways. Getty lived with constant nervousness about her work, then lived with a disease that made work impossible. The weight of that double sentence, lifelong anxiety and then progressive dementia, was hers alone. What we can say is that she worked through her fear for many decades, and she gave a character to the world that people remember. Number 4, we have Rue McClanahan as Blanche Devereaux. Blanche was the Southern belle, the woman whose sexuality was her currency, whose vanity was her charm, whose capacity for reinvention was her survival mechanism. Rue McClanahan was born in 1934. She was 58 years old when The Golden Palace premiered. She died on June 3, 2010, at 76 years old. The cause was a cerebral hemorrhage, bleeding in the brain, sudden and catastrophic. Before the Golden Girls, Rue McClanahan had an extensive television career. She had appeared on Dallas. She had roles in films. She was a working actress throughout the 1970s and 1980s. The Golden Girls elevated her from that status into prominence and fame. She became Blanche Devereaux, and that character became synonymous with her public identity. After the Golden Girls and the Golden Palace ended, she continued working. She appeared in films and television, but she never again achieved that level of ubiquity. In 2007, McClanahan published a memoir titled My First Five Husbands and the One Who Got Away. The title tells you something essential. She was married 6 times. 6 times. Her public persona, the Southern woman endlessly interested in romance, endlessly pursuing men, endlessly reinventing herself through relationships, was not entirely a character. It was an exaggerated version of something real. She married 6 men across her lifetime. 4 of those marriages ended in divorce. 1 ended in death. She was looking for something and found different versions of it in different people. After the last marriage, she published a book about the search. Then she continued working. Then she had a hemorrhage in her brain and died. It is easy to condense a person's life into a character they played. Rue McClanahan is Blanche Devereaux in the memory of most people who watch the show. But she was also a woman who married 6 times, who struggled, who looked for partnership, who worked consistently in an industry that did not always want her. She published a memoir because her life mattered to her. She was not just the character. The Quiet Return is recognizing that the character we remember is only a fragment of the person who inhabited it. Number 5. We have Billy L. Sullivan as Billy. Billy was Rose Nyland's grandson, a young man, adolescent, present in the first season of The Golden Palace and then largely absent from the public record. Sullivan was born around 1980. He was approximately 12 years old when The Golden Palace was filmed in 1992. He had acting work before the show. He appeared in television and had a childhood acting career. The Golden Palace was not his first role, but it appears to have been one of his last. After the show ended, Sullivan largely disappeared from the entertainment industry. There is very little public information about him in 2026. No major film roles, no television presence, no continuation of the work he began as a child actor. This is not entirely unusual. Many child actors do not become adult actors. The transition from child work to adult work is not automatic. Many children who can perform effectively do not want to continue in that industry. They grow up, they have other interests, they pursue other careers. Sullivan appears to have been one of those people. He had a job on a television show. The show was canceled. He moved on. He built a life outside of entertainment. That life remains largely undocumented in the public record. What is worth noting is this. Billy L. Sullivan is approximately 45 or 46 years old in 2026. He is still alive. His life continues. We know almost nothing about it. He is a blank space in the historical record, which is perhaps exactly what he wanted. The reversal is that the most famous work of your youth can be instantly forgotten, which is sometimes a gift. Number 6. We have Bea Arthur as Dorothy Zbornak. Dorothy was the smart one, the one who cut through pretense, the spine of the original Golden Girls, and the absence that defined the Golden Palace. Bea Arthur was born on May 13, 1922. She was 70 years old when the Golden Palace premiered. She did not appear in the show. She had left the Golden Girls after 7 seasons and declined to continue. She preferred to exit while the show still had status and respect. She did not want to be in a diminished version of what had been a major success. She said no. This is important. Bea Arthur's refusal is what made the Golden Palace possible. Without her refusal, there would have been no Golden Palace. The 3 remaining actresses, Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty, moved to a new setting, a new show, a new premise, all because Bea Arthur decided she was finished. She was not fired. She was not written out against her will. She chose to leave. And in leaving, she made the possibility for the others to try something new. Bea Arthur died on April 25, 2009, at 86 years old. The cause was lung cancer. She had been a smoker for much of her life. She quit eventually, but the disease came anyway. She was a woman of strong opinions, a woman who said what she thought, a woman who was not interested in false sentiment. She was born in New York, served in the United States Marine Corps during World War II, worked in theater and television for decades. She was Dorothy Zbornak, smart, acerbic, grounded, and that character became so tied to her public identity that some people seem to believe she actually was that person. She was not. She was an actress playing a character. The character defined her public life, but it was not her entire identity. What we know is that she chose not to continue. She chose to leave while she could control her exit. She did not appear in the Golden Palace. Her absence is the shape of that show. The persistence is continuing to assert what you believe is right, even when others are willing to continue without you. Number 7. We have Betty White as Rose Neeland. Rose was the sweet one, the naive one, the woman from St. Olaf who told endless stories that made no sense and somehow made perfect sense anyway. She was the heart. Betty White was born on January 17, 1922. When The Golden Palace premiered in 1992, she was 70 years old. She died on December 31, 2021, at 99 years old. She died just 17 days before her 100th birthday. The cause was a cerebrovascular accident, a stroke. Betty White's career in television began in the late 1930s. She worked continuously in television for over 80 years. This is not hyperbole. This is a documented fact. She is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as having the longest television career of any entertainer, 80 years. From the late 1930s until 2021, she was present in television's entire history. She saw it being invented. She saw it develop. She saw it transform. She never stopped working. After The Golden Girls and The Golden Palace, Betty White appeared in television and film. She worked steadily. Then something happened in her 80s that is rare. She had a late career resurgence. A television show called Hot in Cleveland began in 2010, and Betty White, at 88 years old, became the focus of a new comedy. She was not a supporting player in someone else's project. She was central. She was the reason people watched. The show ran for 6 seasons. While it was running, she hosted Saturday Night Live at age 90 in 2010. This was not a sentimental gesture by NBC. It was a legitimate request to host a major late-night show. It happened because a Facebook campaign generated millions of people saying they wanted to see her do it. She married 3 times. Her last husband was Alan Ludden, a game show host whom she married in 1963. He died in 1981 after 48 years together. They had no children. She devoted herself to animal welfare activism throughout her life. She was present at protests. She donated money. She used her platform. She cared about something beyond herself. On December 31, 2021, Betty White had a stroke. She was 99 years old. She was 17 days away from her 100th birthday. She died. The news was broadcast globally. She was in the news cycle for weeks. She had become, by the time of her death, something larger than a television character. She had become an emblem of longevity, resilience, kindness, and continuity. People who had watched her since the 1950s were still watching her in 2020. She had worked the entire time. She had never quit. She had never retired. She had never decided she was finished. The correction is this. She was supposed to have a 100th birthday party. The whole world was prepared for it. Magazine covers were planned, celebrations were arranged, and then she had a stroke on the last day of the year and died before anyone could throw the party. The person who lived the longest career in television history died before reaching the 100th birthday that seemed inevitable. The timing is precise and cruel. It is also the only ending that seems true to who she was, still working, still moving forward, still showing up. She did not get to retire into legend. She died still in motion. The Golden Palace lasted 1 season because the audience wanted the Golden Girls, and the Golden Girls could not exist without Bea Arthur's particular gravity. The show was canceled because it was not what people had loved. The 3 remaining actresses had given their best efforts. They had tried to make something work without one of the 4. It did not work. The audience moved on. The show disappeared. 1 season, 24 episodes, 34 years ago. In 2026, we are living in a world where all 4 of the original Golden Girls are dead. Bea Arthur chose not to join the Golden Palace and died in 2009. Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty All continued to the Golden Palace and are all now gone. Getty in 2008, McClanahan in 2010, White in 2021. The franchise has no living original cast members. Don Cheadle went on to become one of the most respected actors of his generation. Cheech Marin built a major cultural institution. Billy L. Sullivan built a life we know almost nothing about. And Rose Nyland's actress died 17 days before she was going to turn 100 years old. This is what remains. 4 women in Miami, 1 season, 1 set of episodes, still in syndication, still being watched by people who need to see them. The show itself was not particularly good. The concept was somewhat desperate. The execution was competent but not exceptional. It had none of the lightning-in-a-bottle chemistry of the Golden Girls at its best. It had 3 of the 4, and it was never enough. But it exists. It is part of the record. It happened. And the women who made it are all gone now, except for the 2 men who were paid to be nearby, who did their job, and moved forward into lives that the Golden Palace could never have imagined for them. That is the story of the Golden Palace, the show that tried to continue something that could only exist in its original form. The show that ended because it was not what anyone wanted, and the show whose cast members are now almost entirely absent from the world.